Hi there. Welcome to the submission info session for the National Alliance for Musical Theater's Festival of New Musicals. I'm Frankie Daly, and I'm the New Works Director here at NAMT and the producer for the festival. It's December 8th, 2023, and today we'll be talking about the application for the 36th annual festival, which will take place in New York City in October 2024. We'll chat through all parts of the application and hopefully answer any questions you might have and prepare you to send your application forward. Parts of this presentation are pre-recorded, but know that we're here in the background and we're taking questions in the chat. We'd be happy to answer questions that you might have as the end as well, and this will be available online for you to return to later if you need. So let's get started. First, we have some key information for you. Check out the festival history at namp.org/festivals, and then you can access the application directly at namp.org/festapp. Looking at dates, we'll hold open office hours on December 15th, and more information for that is on namp.org. This is a great chance to get one-on-one time with a NAMP staff member if you have specific questions that haven't been answered yet. Submissions are free to submit until December 19th, and then after, submissions will incur a $40 late fee. The last day you may submit to the 2024 festival is January 9th, and while there is no cap to the number of submissions we'll accept, we will not extend the deadline this year. There's contact information for key NAMP staff on the screen, and you can feel free to reach out to us if you have questions about your application. If you need tech support, NAMP staff may be able to address some issues, but for most things, you should check out namp.org/submission help and open a ticket with Submittable. A bit about NAMT. The National Alliance for Musical Theater is a membership organization of producers and presenters, academic institutions, regional theater companies, commercial producers, developers, and arts services organizations coming together to further musical theater. We do this through a network of member and artist programs that cultivate relationships between writers and producers. This includes our 2 conferences each year, granting programs, online knowledge exchange, and of course the Musical Theater Songwriting Challenge for high school students, and the Festival of New Musicals. And you can always find out more at namp.org. And a little more about the festival. The Festival of New Musicals is a yearly event in October in New York City that highlights 8 new musicals that were selected by a committee that includes leaders in musical theater from organizations all across the country. The goals of the festival are to present a season of shows with a breadth and depth of themes and tones to suit an eclectic membership of theaters all over the world. We want to connect writers and producers to collaborate. The festival should feel like a professional catalyst using creative process to get there. And ultimately, we want to encourage productions of these shows and to get producers working together to make it happen. The festival will be on October 24th and 25th in 2024. Rehearsals will take place in New York, and selected writers must be present for all events in person. Remember, we're working toward 45-minute stage reading presentations in front of a top-tier audience of leaders in the field. First, let's look at eligibility. First, shows must be in complete draft form, meaning that there's no longer placeholder material in the script or score. You should be submitting the whole show, and you should consider it a presentation-ready draft at this point. You should have demos in an audio recording format for at least 50% of the scored material in your musical. It's not required that all songs be recorded, but they should be fully composed. Demos can range from EP or cast recordings to rough personal edits, all the way to clean scratch recordings of the composer at a piano or a guitar. Your show cannot have been produced on Broadway, the West End, or in a major tour, and you can't currently be licensed through a major licensing house. You should have all permissions to engage in this process and create your musical. And if you're using pre-existing material, we're going to ask you to supply proof of rights on your application. Remember, every show also gets 3 chances to submit to the Festival of New Musicals. And if you've reached that limit, you can contact us and we can let you know what additional options there are for you, especially if you've continued development with a NAMT member. The selection process takes over 6 months and 3 rounds of evaluation. It's important to note that the festival is not a competition, but a curated process by creative professionals. Shows are selected to have balance as a season and really each to have their own lane. First, all submissions are pre-screened by both myself and Sky for completion and eligibility. And as such, it's important that you note that NAMP staff does not have a say or participate in the evaluation of these shows. Instead, we carefully facilitate this process, but we don't select the 8. Round 1 is open to all submissions and is evaluated by our Round 1 screening committee. This is a wide network of NAMPT members, producers, dramaturgs, directors, and more. In this round, a 20-page excerpt is evaluated, including the corresponding demos in that cut, as well as any other demos of the evaluator's choosing, and in no instance, fewer than 5 of them. It's a round where it's important to make a good first impression. This is really about excitement. About a fifth of these submissions will move on to round 2. In round 2, our festival selection committee takes over, and these are leaders in new musicals from all over the country. In this round, the shows and demos will be reviewed in their entirety, and the committee will divide the shows up. So when they come together to discuss, it's a campaigning round where the committee members work to convince each other to read what they found important. The committee will select a finalist pool here of 20 shows that will move into round 3. Before round 3, we'll notify shows that are advancing, and also at this point, we'll notify the shows that have not advanced. This will be in May of 2024. Shows will be notified if they've been advanced as finalists, and there will not be a separate notice for round 2, meaning you'll find out if you're moving into the top 20, and you'll find out if you're not, but there's no differentiation between round 1 and round 2 for this part of the process. Due to the sheer number of shows submitted, NAMP staff will be unable to provide feedback on non-finalist submissions this year. Finalists will have a short window to update scripts and demos if further development on the show has taken place over the time since they submitted. And then in round 3, every member of the festival committee will review each show in its entirety. The committee will come together in person in New York City to select 8 shows, and then we'll notify those selected writers in June. We typically publicly announce the festival lineup prior to the 4th of July. A few things before we get started. NAMPT uses Submittable for all submissions, so you should add notifications at submittable.com to your email contacts and create an account at nampt.org/submittable. Check out the festival submission guidelines, both on this video and on nampt.org/festapp. And then remember that this is an anonymous selection process, and while NAMP staff knows all identities of everyone involved, none of the evaluators or committee members will know who has written any of these shows. So your name and identifying information should not be included in any of the uploaded files, the artist statement, or the synopsis. Let's get started on the application. Again, we'll head over to nampt.org/festapp to bring up the full form. For part 1, we're looking at basic info, title, if it's based on anything, and former titles. We want the credits of the writing team, and we also want to know if there's a commercial producer attached. This would be the person who has a legitimate option on the show, and you'll be asked to provide that if you're advanced as a finalist. We also want to know here how many times you've submitted, and please be specific if you can. We also want to know how you've heard about the festival, and finally, if you can let us know why you're submitting. And this part's just for us at the NAMP staff. The committee doesn't read any of this information. Part 2, we're looking for information about the writers. We'll start with the primary contact writer. This person will receive all communication about the application. We're looking for name, contact information, as well as agent info if you have one, and a short bio too. You can select to add another writer here as well and continue to provide up to 3 writers individually. And if you have more than 3 writers, an additional box will appear to quickly paste any info for remaining members of the team. There are no right answers for this part of the application, and the committee won't review this info. As we head into the next section, I want to point out that we've built this application to give you an opportunity to help our evaluators understand both you and your show through the lens of your creative mission. So in part 3, we're looking for an artistic statement, which is a single statement from your entire writing team. Here, we want to know what's motivating you to tell this story, and frankly, we know that writing a musical is a years-long endeavor, and we want to know what's kept you coming back to this show. This is one of the spots that you want to be sure to not include identifying information about you, which can be tough to consider sometimes. So try to make this specific to your experience without being specific to your name, location, or collaborators. You'll select a primary genre, and you're welcome to provide supporting context here, but try not to overcomplicate or confuse the style or intention of your show. It's okay just to be a comedy or a drama. Again, we'll check in about source material and underlying rights. If your musical contains pre-existing materials in any way that you did not write or that you do not own, you will need to provide proof that the rights are cleared. More about this online, and if you have questions, reach out. Go ahead and place a synopsis for the show here as well. And to be clear, this means that this is a summary of the plot. We'll also note the number of acts here as well. More here, we'll look at the cast of your musical and provide information about the breakdown, including cast size and notes that you might have. Then we need to know about any additional or out of the ordinary casting needs. Particularly, we're interested if you've got children or animals or puppets. This is where we need to know more about those special casting needs. We'd also like to know about your ideal orchestra size and breakdown, meaning in the perfect sonic field of the show, what are the instruments that we're hearing and how many? If you've selected for the festival, NAMPed presentations will include a music director plus 2 additional musicians. So that being said, you should place here what the most fully realized components of that orchestra in your ideal sense are, and just know that the presentations are obviously pared down from that. From here, we're interested in the development and production history of your musical. This is relatively straightforward, where you'll first list any readings, workshops, residencies, productions, or any other noteworthy events in the lifeline of the show, including when and where. You'll list awards and recognition for the show, and then you'll also list noteworthy acknowledgement for the writers. And it may be obvious, but this info is not shared with the committee, so again, no wrong answers, and just for NAMP staff. In part 5, we're focused on uploads, and this section can be understandably intimidating. It's important to note right off the bat that our ability to help you on a technology level with your submission is very limited, but you should always use namp.org/submission help as a resource if you are having technical errors, issue saving, trouble uploading files. Again, that's namp.org/submission help. We'll cover this shortly, but you'll need to upload a few things for us. And so here's a list. It's first a PDF of the script and a 20-page excerpt. Again, it is imperative that no one's name be found in any area of these files. We need individual demo tracks. You can have up to 20 individual tracks that you can upload into the system. And on top of that, we would like a zip file that contains all of the demo tracks in a single compressed folder. And if you have more than 20 demos in the entirety of your show, this is where you'd include the rest that you couldn't include in the individual uploads earlier. You must take special care to remove metadata from your demo tracks, and this includes names or other identifying information, including production history. It might mean retitling your track names or checking, other metadata points just to be clear that there's no revealing information. Okay, script upload. This must be the full script. It has to be in a PDF, and that's the only format that we'll accept. All script files should lead with introductory pages that include first a title page with the title only and no writers' names, 100-word synopsis, the character breakdown, and then a track listing for the demos that are included in the application. So this is not a list of all of the songs in the show, but it's a list of the tracks that we'll actually be listening to when we read the script. It's incredibly important to know specifically where to press play on the track, but also to know at the top that we have an inventory of the songs that are ahead of us. Next is the script excerpt. This is the portion of your script that will be used to evaluate your submission exclusively for round 1. What we need are 20 consecutive pages of your script. And a pro tip, this should include a musical moment and not be continuous dialogue. Only you'll know the best 20 pages of the show to put forward. We often suggest that that's the first 20 pages. That's often a strong foot forward for submissions, but you're by no means required to do that. And again, only you're going to know the best 20 to give us. But if you're not using the first 20 pages of your show, you can use this box here to give a brief setup to the moment that we're joining the script in your cut. I also want to note that there is a strict length limit to that 20-page excerpt, and that is 20 pages. It is 20 pages or less, so no phantom partial 21st pages. It's 20 pages or less strictly, and your introductory pages do not count against you to that end. For shows that are primarily in another language, it's important to note that the NAMT Festival submission process is almost entirely facilitated in English. Non-English works may optionally provide a translated script. If your musical includes non-English components, but you do not wish to provide a translated script, you can also consider a short translated glossary of terms in the introductory pages. But again, this is optional. Now we'll look at our demo uploads. You can check this box if you have more than 20 tracks in your demo, and that will signal to us that there are additional demos in your zip file. You'll upload that zip file here first. All of your show's demos go in the zip file, including the tracks you upload individually. So it will seem like you're uploading things twice. That is because you are. Next, you'll upload those individual tracks. Remember to scrub those files of revealing information from the file names and other metadata. Start with track 1 and continue to add files until you're entirely uploaded or until you've hit 20 tracks. Here you'll notice an alternative media upload. In most cases, you're going to ignore this, but there are some instances where you may have already reached out to NAMT to facilitate an alternative media selection in lieu of a demo or a script. In absolutely all cases, this requires NAMT's written permission for you to do so. Additionally, there are sometimes a few technical limitations to this form, and this section might sometimes present a solution in those cases. But chances are, if you're looking at this section and you're unsure if you need it, it's likely that you do not. But check in with us if you feel like that it might apply to you. However, please be sure that you do not upload anything here unless you have express pre-approval. Otherwise, it will not pass a pre-screening. In part 6, we have an optional diversity survey. I want to stress that this is part of your submission that may become part of the discussion around your show in round 3 of our selection process, but this information is only revealed with regard to the show and not any individual's names on the show. We're very committed to each year's festival representing a wide array of voices and perspectives, just like we do for genres in tone and style and stage of development. You're not required to fill out this information, and we've had folks decide to pass on this as recently as last year. But it's important to know that it might be something that is brought in for discussion at the last moment of our selection process. We do give you an opportunity here to not just check boxes, but to put your own experience in your own words as well. And there's a short answer box if you'd prefer to use that. And we're nearly there. All we have to do is certify that everything you are submitting is true and that you've adhered to the guidelines we put forward. We also need the full name of the person filling out this form, whether that's the primary contact of the application or not. If you submit after December 19th, you'll be charged a $40 submission fee that will run through January 9th, and you'll only see this page beginning on December 20th, and then until then, applications are free to submit. You can submit your draft or you can save it and you can return to it later. Just so you know, Submittable will auto-save your work as you go, so it's pretty secure to prevent loss of data while you're away from the form. If you attempt to submit and you have errors in the form, you may see something like red lettering throughout the form. You've probably seen something like this before, where the form will highlight the problem areas and ask you to make corrections before it'll accept the submission. Also, take care not to exceed word counts. Know that there are some of these fields that require specifically formatted information like email addresses or phone numbers, and it'll catch you if you've done it wrong. So keep an eye out for those red notes when you're submitting and be sure you've corrected everything. Once you've gotten to this page, congratulations, you've successfully submitted your application, and it's now in our hands to review for completion and eligibility. Your primary contact will also receive a confirmation email, and this is a great way to test whether Submittable has been cleared in your spam. So check your filters and your promotions tab just to make sure that you've caught that confirmation. And so that's the application. We'll look at our key info one more time. Check out the links here for more info on the festival and the application, and important dates are coming up, so make sure you've marked your calendar. You can feel free to reach out to us with questions, and of course, tech support is available online. If you're looking for a few tips to your application this year, I can't impress upon you how helpful it is just to have an easy-to-read application. Try to prevent the ordinary fumbles of reading and listening to a musical script. Be clear when to start tracks, and do not overcomplicate. Maybe ask someone close to you that might not know theater well to give an honest look at how simple it is just to take your materials in at base level. For your artist statement, remember that it's pretty difficult to live up to being everything to everyone, and it's pretty easy for the committee to spot when you're trying to do that. So instead, focus on who you are, why only you can tell this story, and why it needs to be on stage. Demos can be particularly challenging for some folks, and just please know that our committees are made of individuals that know how to read scripts and listen to demos and understand what new musical development is and the writing process looks like. So they're coached to be able to evaluate demos of different production values and qualities against one another, and you should not feel pressure to overproduce your demo material. It's important to have a clear sound that can clarify tone and style and intention. Demos can be studio recordings, but many demos that are submitted to us are rehearsal or composer recordings. And while the Festival of New Musicals is open to all writers, if you're a high schooler, you should know that you can level up at NAMPT with the Musical Theater Songwriting Challenge for high school students. Submissions for that are open right now and only require a single song. It's a super simple application. More at namp.org/challenge. Thank you so much for joining us. Hopefully we've caught some of your questions as we've gone. And if you're joining us live, we're going to take a moment now to transition back over to the live part and close us out. So thanks again, everyone. And don't forget more info at namp.org/festapp.